going on? It's been a while since we've heard that.
Literally.
It's been a while since we heard that. Welcome to the first Schoolin Session of 2025 with Pablo the Don and me, Krista B. So, Schoolin Sessions moving forward will look a little bit different. At first, when we first started Schoolin Sessions, Pablo and I started it as us focusing on women's world of wrestling. And it was cool, it was fun, but then a lot of other wrestling news and stuff started to become a bit too much, and we just couldn't keep up. And then we got lives. We have lives. We're very, very busy people. So we decided to take a little break on Schoolin Sessions and revamp it a little bit. So now this platform, this sector of the Those Wrestling Girls Network would not just be about wrestling, but it would be about everything. So to kick off this new version of Schoolin Sessions, we wanted to talk to you and recap the things that we learned from the Luther Vandross Never Too Much documentary. Now, first of all, I forgot it was even coming on. And I was going to scroll so I can record Sisters, and I saw that it was on. I didn't even watch Sisters last night. So now I gotta catch up on that because I was watching Luther Vandross Never Too Much. And Luther Vandross is one of my favorite singers. One of my favorite songs, of course, is Never Too Much. And then right after that is Superstar, the live version at that. And because when that pianist plays in that live version, just takes me to a whole nother level. But in watching that documentary, my heart just broke for this man. Mm-hmm. It was just so heartbreaking for him because the one thing that he wanted in life, he never got, which was love. Right. And I was tweeting from my blog page, Unapologetically Eclectic, so y'all follow that, on how it's so easy to see a celebrity as a celebrity and forget that they're a real person when they have wants and needs just like us who are not in the spotlight or don't have the camera shining on us 24/7. And it's like, they're human because we all want the same things. And this man never got to experience true love, not got to experience love. And everything that he wanted, it was just taken away from him at such a young age because he passed so young. So what was your takes on watching this documentary?
I mean, I think first and foremost, I learned so much about him just because, obviously, his peak of his popularity is pretty. I want to say well before I was even born. So anything I have learned about him has been secondary years after through my parents, my grandparents, people who were there at the time and going to concerts and stuff. But I think the big thing I learned was the most impressive thing was his tenure in music, starting off as a background singer, working his way through the black version of Sesame Street, then going to be a background singer for David Bowie, moving over to Philadelphia and making music with a lot of the Philadelphia black R&B of the 70s and 80s, like OJ's, things like that. And then it takes him working with Roberta Flack for him to even make his own music, which is whoa. And then the success right out of the gate was geez Louise. But I guess it was shocking to hear that, but I'm I also think he was primed for that kind of success on the first song just because he came with something different. He had all this support from different people in the industry already, and then the song was just so infectious. You can't get away from Never Too Much. That's a black barbecue staple at this point. If it's not played at the barbecue, your playlist is bad. That Trash. Is one of those songs. Yeah. I think that part was probably the most interesting and not shocking, but the most interesting part of the documentary was how much they were able to dive deeply into his upbringing, his childhood, and kind of how he got to be Luther Vandross, and even the failed groups that he was in before he went on his own, First Choice and then or Chance, I'm sorry, and then Luther. He had groups before, which was things I didn't know. But I think the most shocking probably was this revelation that again he never got to experience the one thing he always wanted to. And it's it's so funny that we regard him as one of the best love song makers of all time. And that man literally didn't know what that even felt like. This is straight imagination, and still some way somehow he was able to like capture the essence of what love is through his imagination based on what he thought it should be, which was, I was like, that's kind of cool, shocking, but also like really really cool.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool as well. So fun fact, I was in grad school when I found out that Luther Vandross was a background singer for David Bowie. I didn't know. My teacher, my professor, shout out to Professor Kevin Coyne, he was a big music buff, and he's from Jersey, and he grew up in the same town as Bruce Springsteen, and so he has that. And we was talking about music one day. He was like, "Yeah, like, did you know that Luther Vandross was a background singer for David Bowie?" And I was like, "What?" I said, "You're lying. Like, David Bowie all the way from the UK, and like we know he had crossover success, but you would have never thought that Luther would cross over into David Bowie's world." But when you watch the documentary, you see that once he went into the Philly sound and started working with all these Philadelphia-based artists, like you said earlier, like the OJs, David Bowie and Mick Jagger and all of those UK artists that's the music they were feeling. It was just somebody, I think, I forgot who said it in the documentary, but it was just like Philly's music sound was like the strip and raw version of the Motown sound, which I
Right,
understand. Like,
right.
it was it became more relatable. It wasn't all, doo-wops and shiny clothing and things like that. It was raw, it was rugged, it was real. It was telling us, like, like the OJ's backstabbers. That was real. Like, you do have people who will literally smile in your face and then stab you in the back for no reason, or because of whatever issues they may have. You understand? So for
Yeah.
them, for the UK artists who are already big at that time, to come over and um want to get a piece of that sound, even if it's such a small piece, it was real. It was real, like, inspiring to see. And then when Carlos was like, the best way at that time to get on people's tracks is if you're sending their sessions. And that's how Luther Vandross got put on to David Bowie's songs and became a background singer for him, because they was like, "Oh yeah, we got a friend who could sing. We got a friend who has an
Hmm.
ear, who can hear things that you probably won't even be able to hear." And it was Luther Vandross. So it is so astonishing to see. And then also when he had that group Luther, and they was like, "Oh, why is the group called Luther?" He said, "Because I write all the music. I produce all of the songs." Like, I was like, one thing about Luther, he going to show
Make
up and
sure you
show
get
out.
his credit. Yeah,
Right. He going to show up and show out. Um, and I loved how his mom was so supportive of him.
for sure.
Like, when he went to college that first year, and he was just like, "Hey, I can't do this. I want to come back and I want to pursue singing." And she was like, "Okay." Because he never knew that his father was a singer.
Hmm.
He never got a chance to see that side of his father, I'm guessing, because he said his father passed away when he was 8 years old.
Yep.
So for you to inherit that talent, and then for you to have a supportive parent to push you, and for you to push you into your purpose, and be like, "I'll support you because this is what your dad did, although you didn't know it. And I don't want you to feel left out, or I don't want you to feel
Hmm.
like you have to regret these things." And Luther went in it full force. He was like, "I don't have a plan B. This is it. I'm not going in with nothing else." And then for
Right.
Roberta Flack, I also tweeted, I was like, Roberta Flack is the type of friend that you needed to have. A friend who can move you from the background to the front, and who can push you into your purpose. Because if it really wasn't for Roberta Flack at that moment pushing him to the front, we don't know how long it would have taken us to get the Luther Vandross that we know and love today.
Exactly. We really don't. I think I it's so the documentary was so good because I think too, like, one of the things I was not shocked by, but just like, damn, we don't have this anymore, was when they were talking about like David Bowie and Mick Jagger really liking those sounds and songs from like Philly. The way that they tried to not just take it and redo it, but legitimately go like fly, seek these people out who were directly responsible, work with them, sit in sessions, sit in their sessions and learn, like asking questions.
Mhm.
I'm like, yeah, white artists aren't really doing that anymore. Like, I feel like they're just like, I want to do that. And then they find someone who's not part of that sound or scene and just take it. And I'm like, see, this is where like I think the difference between appreciation and appropriation comes. But I also think that's why like white people music don't hit the same no more. Like
True. True.
because they're
Unless you
not.
like Adele or Sam Smith or something, like they hit.
Right, but look who they work with. They go and seek out the people who are responsible for the sounds that they're trying to like emulate, and then it works out. Even I'm thinking like, oh, in the 2000s, Britney Spears knew she wanted to lean at some point more R&B, more hip hop. Who does she go hit up? Dark Child. She hits up Rodney
Mhm.
Jerkins to make music for her. She hits up Pharrell. She goes and gets the Yin Yang Twins on a song. Like, what are we? What? Like, she wanted to be integrated into the community, not just take the parts of it that was bubbling up and getting popular and then just use it and then be like, I don't know what y'all talking about. Like, I came up with this on my own. Like, that I think is what's missing in the music landscape now. So to hear that, like, David Bowie was like, let me bring all these people in that I know are connected to the sound. And then I happen to find like a gem within that. And then not only do I like find them, but like I integrate them in. Oh, you have this dope ad lib that you want that you think would sound good. I'm not just gonna take it. You're about to vocally arrange this. I'm gonna make
Mhm.
sure you get paid, and we're gonna sing it the way you want to sing it because I think it's brilliant. Like I'm not here just to take your stuff. I'm here to make sure you get credit for your things and send you to the next level and introduce you to the next person. I think that is what is kind of missing in today's landscape, and so it was cool to see that they were trying to show like he got put on by proxy of other artists appreciating him and really enjoying his music and his talent and like allowing him to work with them so closely and so intimately that not only was he teaching them, but they were teaching him like how to like I'm the part where he was like David made me go do a 30-minute set and they were all just cheering for David Bowie to come out and he was like and David was like no, you need to do this because where the places you're going, girl, this is nothing. Like you're gonna be thankful for this practice and this preparation when you go to the
Mhm.
places that you're going because I already know what it is. Like that's the kind of things we don't see anymore.
Yeah, we really don't see them anymore. And if they are happening, like you say, we don't see them, but if they are happening, sometimes it isn't displayed through the music or isn't
No.
displayed through like the songs in itself. Like, so yeah, I do agree with you on that. Like, people saw Luther's potential. And although they saw their potential, saw his potential, it was still so sad that the public only saw him for his weight,
Hmm.
like publicly scrutinizing him. Like even in the very beginning when he was in that group Listen Brother,
Hmm.
and it was like Carlos has said, I think it was Carlos or the other one, I can't remember his name right now, who said, you can't look at Luther and think that he was the main focus or the main vocal component to this group. Yes, he was talented, but because there was only one issue, it was because he was tall and he was big. And that kind of hurt because it's just like, one, no, everybody knew that Luther had this obsession, this unhealthy relationship with food. And at that times, those things is just like, is either those things weren't taken as seriously as mental health disorders or anything like that. It was just like, all right, put the food down and get to work. Like, you can stop eating food at any time. People don't understand like having an unhealthy relationship with food is an addiction. But because it wasn't like drugs or sex or anything like that, it was swept under the rug. And
Hmm.
because of the criticism, they're not understanding that it made him eat more. So then when he lost the weight, now it was like, oh, he has AIDS. Oh, he's dying. Oh, he's dead. And I'm like, it's like it was
Right.
really a topsy turvy cycle for this man. It's like he wasn't winning as a bigger version of himself, and then he wasn't winning as a smaller version of himself. It's like, what did y'all really want or expect from this man who's literally giving you good music, not even just as a solo artist or part of a group, but writing and singing on other people's tracks, which are going to number one and you know being very successful. It's like y'all really focus and criticize this man on his weight, which definitely hurt, which definitely caused him to eat more, which definitely caused him to gain weight. And y'all didn't even see it. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I always say oh, and this is from me watching comedy shows. Oh, this is Big Luther. I love it when it was Big Luther. And once I watched that documentary, I was like, I had to check myself. Because that part where Cedric the Entertainer was just like, yeah, I mess with big Luther. I don't really mess with small Luther. I don't know him. Or when I think he said something about, I think Eddie Murphy had made a joke about him one time, and Luther kind of addressed it. I had to check myself and be
Mhm.
like, Luther Vandross is Luther Vandross, big or small. His voice has never changed.
Right. I think that was the thing that confused me about that whole combo was like, y'all, why are we acting like he wasn't putting out just as good, just as formidable music when he was smaller? Like that's the thing I think that got me was like the music stayed consistently the same, and then when I say same, I mean good the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so I'm trying to figure out why are we trying to say like, oh, I like this version of him better. I'm like, at the end of the day, when he got on that stage, he got on that stage. Like,
I
I'm
don't.
trying to, and I think that's my confusion with people talking about it that way. It would have been one thing if he lost a dramatic amount of weight and it completely affected his voice and it just ain't the same no more. But it what like nothing
That's
legitimately nothing changed other than his appearance and his ability to move around the stage more. Like he
mm-hmm.
was never dancing like that. So let's not act like he's, Bobby Brown at the 50th reunion in New Edition and it's like looking tough for him to hit his marks. It wasn't like he was never really, he wasn't up there giving us a two step. He was doing the most simple shit either way. So I'm just like, that part has always confused me around the conversation of his weight. Why are y'all like fetishizing him at a bigger weight? When the music stayed the same, the music was still consistent, the music was still good, his performances were still good. What That's the thing I think I'm still trying to figure out about that whole documentary. What was it that made y'all be like, I prefer Big Luther over Skinny? What was it? Like that's the thing I think
Yeah.
I'd like for me, I need Cedric to answer that. What was it?
What
Because
was
you
it?
two were
Because
big for him?
I must say,
Like,
right, you too are big. Like you're
yeah,
still big. You understand? Like, and and I get it, but coming from someone who is big and them body shaming another big person, it's just like you're facing the same thing, but because you're a
right.
comic, comedian, actor instead of a singer, you think like it's different for you when it's really not.
Right,
When it's
because I'm
really
like, so what would happen if I say I prefer the Eddie Murphy that looked like he was homeless on Saturday Night Live? That's gonna look crazy if I say that. Like, what do you mean?
Mhm.
Versus delirious Eddie Murphy in the Michael Jackson Thriller suit. Like, what are you? Eh, Even though your comedy hasn't changed, how funny you are hasn't changed. What is your point in saying that? Like, that's what I'm getting to. Is like, what is the point in saying that when nothing about the foundations of why you like this person has changed. The only thing that has changed is his appearance. And in fact, I think Jamie Foxx said it best. Anybody that was his real fans, if he would have just talked to people who was legit buying tickets and not these entertainers, they would have been like, Luther, we love you regardless. Like, what? The music is the same. You are the same. Like, we don't care if you are 500 pounds or 12 pounds. Like, you will still be Luther. It doesn't
Right.
matter. And I'm just like, I just wonder what was I here's the thing. I can understand even the media obsession with like talking about his weight because that's what they always do.
That's what they
That's
do.
the
They
thing
need
they
something to
focus
talk
on.
about.
They
Mhm.
focus on the changes and how it will affect and like speculation and salaciousness. I expect that from the media, which I know still took a toll on him because why are you asking me about this at my big age? At some point, they're asking him about his fluctuating weight, and he's in his 40s, and it's like he's in his 40s. Like weight gain is a natural part of aging. Also, let's stop that. But like my question was like, what was the obsession with other entertainers on that? Like, why were y'all specifically who understand what it's like to be in that world, that lane? What is wrong with like? Why are y'all talking this way?
Right.
What is the reason? That really bugged me because I was you
It
could tell it bugged him.
Yeah, it bugs him a lot. And I also feel like Luther was so reserved when it came down to his personal business because
Yes.
as Carlos said towards the end, it was like Luther has diabetes. So at a certain point when you get to a certain age, your weight does have to be regulated. So for him to go up 120 pounds and then lose 120 pounds and then go back up, that right there was a red flag.
Hmm.
And it attributed to, and his obsession with food attributed to that. And
Mhm.
we don't know how deep behind the scenes. Like, we know that these weren't conversations that were being had. We know that Luther just was on the track of wanting a number one hit, wanting to be a crossover star, wanting to find love, wanting, I'm not sure if he really wanted help with the food obsession, but it was mentioned every now and again, but it's like nobody around him knew how to support him in a way to be like, all right,
And
let's
I
let's
think
put
it
this
was
down, let's figure this out. Let's.
right. And I think it's funny because like back then people really didn't. They thought like just put the food down and it's like it's really not that simple.
It's not
It
that
was
simple.
funny. My girlfriend and I made the joke last night. It was like, "Damn, Luther would have loved Ozempic cuz like girl, the way he would have not been thinking about food. Like I'm like Luther would have loved a G1LP like kind of medicine. But at the end of the day, I'm like I tell people like he was eating this way because of stress, the stress to continue being a star, the stress to continue turning in hits, the success to make your record label more money. Like those things could have you and he said it in an interview, like it's something you cope some way. Some of y'all do drugs, some of y'all use sex, some of y'all, you have your own way to cope. Mine
Mhm.
just happens to be food. And of
Yeah.
course, because there's such a visible transformation through that, of course I'm going to get ate up the most, of course I'm going to get talked about the most. But the truth of the matter is that like everyone has some habit that they have to cope with things, like whether it's healthy or not. Even smoking cigarettes, like it is a thing to help you cope with stress. And like there are good ways to do it, but everything can be taken to the extreme. And I just think that's just what it was for him, was like it was an extreme. And when he was super stressed out, that was just the route that he took. And food is
Mhm.
comforting. I don't care what y'all say, y'all. I love when people try to be like it's not that hard. No, food is comforting, y'all know that shit. Like if you don't take
Food is
enjoyment in good food,
comfort.
I don't know what to tell you. Like you're not living life if you don't take enjoyment in really good food.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And another thing that bugged me with this documentary was the night of the Grammys when
Yeah.
he was nominated 9 times, and I think he only won once.
So he was nominated. I think they were saying they don't tell it right, the doc, but he was nominated 9 times over the years and he
Over
didn't
the
win
years,
until his
okay.
10th. Yeah, he didn't win until his 10th nomination for Here and Now. Like Here and Now
Fair
is
enough,
the first
okay.
time Luther won a Grammy, but he had been up 9 times before. And like, there is an argument for him should have winning all the other 9 times for sure. And then I went back and looked at who he was nominated against. And like truthfully, it was gonna be down to who do you just like more? Because in those
Mhm,
categories, let's not act like it's like, Rinky Dink 1 and Rinky Dink 2. We're talking like Stevie Wonder, Roberta
mhm,
Flack, like all these powerhouse R&B people during this time that were turning out hits. Mickey Howard, like, oh my God. Like, you look at the people he was nominated against, and it's just like, he could have it came down to like maybe it's like a one vote situation. That's how I
mhm.
look at it. But I still think despite all that, they could have found, and I think people don't think enough about how small the Grammy categories were back then. They didn't have R&B performance, R&B vocal, melodic, whatever. It was straight up R&B song of the year. That's it. That's
Mhm.
it. So your only opportunity was this one opportunity if you weren't nominated in the general categories. So I'm like, it's very simple and easy to see why Luther wasn't winning, despite there being a case for why he should have
Well,
won.
he should have
Now,
won, yeah.
and yeah, it was too much of a crowded field. They were not giving Black people enough space to win more awards at that time. Like this is pre a hip hop Grammy too. So everybody's piled into this one genre, which is
Yeah.
R&B. Every Black person you can think of is piled into R&B. It's going to be hard for anybody to win that shit.
Anybody to win, yeah, I agree. And speaking of hip hop, during the 90s, all of those people started to like all those R&B people started to like be started to dwindle out. Luther, Boys to Men, all of those people. So Luther decided, all right, I'm going to revamp and I'm going to go elsewhere to who can help me with my
Mhm.
music. He ends up signing to Clive Davis's J Records. And we have our reservations about good old Clive that we won't touch
For sure.
today.
For sure.
But and then again, Luther's skinnier. I feel like this was like the skinniest he's been.
Yeah, for sure.
And I feel like deep down he knew that his career was going to come to an end around this time because of the Dance with My Father song. It's like one of
For
those
sure.
eerie songs where it's about to be over for you, just like Sam Cooke's A Change's Gonna Come. Everybody
Yeah.
was, I remember watching that documentary and Bobby Womack was like, yo, this is eerie. Like, why did you feel the need to write this song? And then lo and behold, I believe that song was released and then Sam Cooke was shot and killed.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe he was shot and killed and the song was released. Either way, you have these eerie songs and then these eerie interviews right after, and you just know, like, after the release of Dance with My Father, and he was like, this is going to be the song that's going to propel me to that next level, and it did.
Right.
However, he couldn't really enjoy it because of the fact that he ended up having a stroke. I
Yep.
left him critical. Ended up winning a Grammy with Richard Marx, and shout out to Richard Marx because I didn't know he
Yeah.
was writing with Luther like that. Shout out to Richard
Yeah.
Marx. He ended up having a stroke, won the Grammy. Richard was like, listen, I'm getting on this plane, went right on that plane, celebrated with Luther as much as he can. They had a conversation. Luther is kind of recovered. He's in a wheelchair. He's speaking. He does his last interview with Oprah. And Oprah was just like, he was just like in his interview, right now, my goal is to deal with this chapter in my life, knowing that this is going to be my end. And
Right.
then all of a sudden, it's
He's
everywhere
dead.
that Luther Vandross passed away.
For real
Huh?
this time too. Not
For
not
real this
fake.
time. Because other times, y'all was
Yeah.
proclaiming that he died, and he was just like, huh, no, I'm still here. But for him to have that feeling and knowing that this was really the end for him, it's like
Yeah.
the like I say all the time, like the power of life and death lies within the tongue.
No, sometimes like
Mhm.
there's been so many artists who like have basically predicted their death. Juice World is like the one that comes to mind most recently
Mhm.
cuz he was like, I'm not making it past 21. And they were like, why would you say that? And he was like, cuz I just know I'm not. Boom. And he doesn't. I'm like, yo, this is,
That's
well,
so
I'm
even
I'm living
Aaliyah.
at 500. I'm living at 500.
Okay, even Aaliyah
Yeah.
and Left Eye,
Yeah.
they did their diary, MTV Diaries, and they was like,
Yeah.
"What do you want your legacy to be?" And then after that, Aaliyah dies in a
Gone.
plane crash. A year later, Left Eye dies in a car accident. Those questions are so eerie to me, and those questions, I don't like those questions
I
for
hate
those
him.
simple,
I
those
Yeah.
simple, those simple reasons. So for Luther to come out and say, dealing with knowing that this is the end,
Right.
sir, I
And
really
I
feel like
think,
if he didn't say that, I feel like it could have been like a Teddy Pendergrass situation. Like,
yes.
although Teddy Pendergrass was paralyzed in that car accident, he had who was it? Ashford and Simpson. Shout out to
Yeah.
them too. Like they were really there with him as well. Pushed him and
Mhm.
he performed for the first time in a wheelchair at that stadium. And
Yep.
he kept saying, I really feel like if Luther didn't feel that way, but I also feel like Luther was tired. I feel like
I was
he was
gonna say sometimes it's that they say it because they know that they're depleted and they're on their last
mhm,
leg. Like they know truthfully what they're dealing with when they get out of this lights, camera, action phase. Like they know that, yeah, dude, I'm getting tired, and this is a different type
yeah.
of tired than my usual tired, and I just don't think I'm gonna be here longer. And I think that is truly how he felt. But I am
Mhm,
ultimately glad he got the opportunity to at least say that. Like at least be like, I
mhm.
already know what it is. I worked really hard on this last project. I think who else was it? Like Eddie Levert. Like he made that last album with his dad, and then he
Gerald.
passes away.
Gerald.
Gerald, and then he makes the album with Eddie, his dad, and then he passes away before the album comes out, and it's just like,
Mhm,
did you know this was gonna happen? Like y'all finally link up on a real project. Sean does background work. Sean dies 2 years after the project comes out too. Like,
mhm.
did y'all know this was like, whoa, like this is too much. This is
It's a
too much. But
lot.
I'm glad he had that moment, and I'm glad that this documentary ended up happening, because I do feel like while a lot of people know Luther, like know who he is, know the voice, know the music, I don't think a lot of people, especially as you get to like my generation and younger, really understand or know his background enough, number one, but number two, know just how big that man was, like, and
Mm-hmm.
globally, like how much of a suit, like, if he would have been alive, he would have had a Las Vegas residency now. Like,
Oh,
he
for
would be
sure.
one of
And I
those
would have been
people.
in there
Yeah.
crying.
Yes, absolutely.
Ugly
He would,
cry.
or he would be doing tours. God bless her, because she'd be canceling dates. But he would be on like the Anita Baker like reclamation tour by now.
It would have been Luther's
That
tour.
lady be, yeah, that lady be missing dates and all that shit. But like, that's still my girl. She still can perform. She's still great after having a stroke. Again, that is another artist who had a stroke and is doing their thing. But he would have been on his we're doing this like moment. And
Right.
I just wish, I'm glad people got the opportunity to understand and know who he was, but I also like the amount of hits he just got, like straight up. Like, I know we love Never Too Much, but I'm like, dude, Dance with My Father, Any Love, Here and Now is probably like,
The
you
ultimate
know,
wedding song.
yeah. And even the duet, now it's being sampled with Scissor and Kendrick on Luther, like the duet with
Mm-hmm.
why can't I think of her name? But
Mariah Carey?
yeah,
No. Yeah.
no, no, no. It was another person. It's on the song Luther on GNX by Kendrick.
I'll
Hold on,
figure
let
it
me
out.
find it.
Yeah, I'll figure it out. Like I've heard it, but
Uh, If This World Were Mine by him and Cheryl Lynn.
oh, Cheryl Lynn. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that
But they,
song, like,
I feel like with this documentary, the things that I mean, it was cool to just have it small. Like shout out to Daniel
yeah,
Smith, who's the ultimate music journalist, inspiration of mine. Mariah Carey, Jamie Foxx, his assistant, his three friends who he sang with, and listen up, brother.
yep,
Okay, and I feel like it was cool, but then you also don't have the voice. Oh, and Valerie Simpson. You don't
hmm,
have the voices of others, like the process of his work with Cheryl Lynn. The process of him working with Beyonce on Closer to I Get to You. Not saying that we
yeah,
needed that, but there's other aspects, because I feel like when Beyonce dropped her Dangerously in Love album, that's probably the first time that people noticed who Luther Vandross was. Or even when he popped up on 106 in Park. I remember that. And
yeah,
he came and he brought, I think, the Take You Out video.
hmm,
And then that was crossover, because then you had Garcelle Bouvet, I think that's how you say her name, who played Fancy on the Jamie Foxx show, being his leading lady in that video. And then
yep,
to turn around and see her be in the tribute video with Dance with My Father. And you also
right,
had Beyonce in the video with her dad, when Beyonce had just dropped Dangerously in Love, and The Closer I Get to You, which is a remake, of course, was amazing.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
it's like how it's so easy to cross over. Like, people think that, like, I love how when the younger generation gets to know what your parents or grandparents and stuff listen to, and they think like it's something new, or it's something that's what you call timeless. Like, that's just something that's
hmm,
timeless. The
oh,
Vandals
for
is
sure,
super timeless. Speaking of timeless, I didn't know, and I tweeted this too. I said I love how Black people would literally remake a song or throw some seasoning on a certain song, because I did not know that Superstar was a Carpenter song.
Carpenter song.
And then he
Yeah,
came and he did it. I'm just like, wait a
I
minute,
mean,
like
that
this
shows
is the
how
song
like,
we're talking.
that shows that like, listen, good music be getting made by any and everybody. Like, I think that way about like the Chicks when they covered Landslide. I was like, hold on,
Mhm.
like remaking a Fleetwood Mac song and it's just as good. That's not easy.
This is good.
Um,
Even
but yeah,
Whitney
him doing
Houston. Whitney
Superstar.
Houston is the
Yeah,
queen of remakes.
yeah.
Queen of remakes. Like, I would
I'm
have
Every
never.
Woman.
I'm Every Woman. What's the song for? What's the Dolly Parton song? I Will Always Love You. Was that the Dolly
I will
Parton
always
song?
love you.
I Will
Yeah.
Always Love You. Um, Higher Love. That's my song.
Yep. Yeah.
My friends hate when I play that song, but that is my song. Like, Whitney Houston is the queen of remix, and growing up, I never knew that she remade the song. And I was like, why is Shaka Khan in the video? Like, and then I realized, oh, that was Shaka Khan's song first. Got it. But I never knew that I Will Always Love You was a Dolly Parton song. Higher
No,
Love.
it's amazing.
Higher
She's
Love
done
is
a
a,
bunch.
I think, yeah, she has a lot. She definitely has a lot. But it just go like you said, it goes to show you like you can have a great artist remake a great song and make it theirs. Like I don't even know what the Carpenters version of Superstar is. And Superstar,
It's
going back to
good, but it
Timeless,
ain't Luther.
it ain't Luther. Okay. Going back to Superstar being timeless, Ruben Studdard redid it. Usher did
Hmm.
a rendition of it, his own
Yep.
version of Superstar, but we know it
That
came and
everybody
it
loves.
right attributed from
Luther.
Luther Vandross. So Luther's
Yeah.
just so timeless, and that funeral scene at the end when all those artists was there, Alicia Keys, Sissy
Literally.
Houston leading the choir,
Yeah.
Usher, Patti LaBelle, it was just so many. Valerie Simpson, she didn't even know where her head
What
from her
was
tail
going
was.
on?
Yeah, because she was just so distraught. Um, her husband Ashford, I can't think of the first name, but Ashford was also there. Um, it was just so many people there. Then the outside, it rained that day, the day of the funeral, and I'm just like, yeah, because they know like Luther done left this world,
Right.
and
It's a
what
bad day.
it was a sad day of Luther leave this world. Um, and another thing that this documentary touched on was his sexuality, attributed to why he
Hmm.
never found the love that he was looking for. Like, we don't know if Luther was a gay man or bisexual man or a straight man. Like, we don't know what his sexuality was. And when they touched on it, and the first thing that I said when they was talking about how people were, you know, revealing Luther's sexuality is supposed to be his friends with him. I said that dang on Patti LaBelle. And then they show that clip with Patti LaBelle and Sam Smith sitting on Watch What Happens Live with Andy Cohen. And Patty's talking about, yeah, we talked about it, you know, and that song Any Love is his favorite song because he said it was an autobiographical song. And I'm just like, whether deceased or not, if Luther wasn't disclosing what his sexuality was, nobody should be disclosing what his sexuality was.
It's funny because I just think I know they had to touch on it, but I would have like preferred they not because I just feel like being sitting in a room dancing around the topic is almost worse than just not even talking about it.
It's not
I'm
even
like I
talking about.
understand why they had to, but like to see his friends and again like I get where they're coming from to see his friends be like I'm not really going to discuss that. It's a personal issue for Luther um like you can take whatever influences you want from whatever, but I don't really think I'm like that makes it look crazy. Like it makes it look like you are also hiding something for him. And I'm like I just would have preferred if they not touched on his
Yeah,
sexuality or left his friends conversations out because I'm just like not saying nothing but talking, like saying
says a
nothing but
lot.
talking is still saying a lot, man.
It
Like,
says a
and
lot.
I feel like they could have just mentioned, like, yeah, a lot of people were questioning Luther's sexuality, and then just inserted that clip where he says, I'm neither going to confirm nor deny because I'm not giving you the satisfaction of either. We could have just ended that part. That could have
Right.
been it.
It could have been that, but at the same time, it goes back to the woman in the Oprah show asking, "What are your two favorite songs to sing?" And for him to
Right.
say "Any Love" because it's autobiographical, and then for the assistant to point out, "I first loved that song, but now I hate it because it wasn't Luther." He said Luther wasn't sitting here looking for true love. He was looking for any love, meaning he was looking for anybody to love him, and meaning that his perception of love could have been warped. He could have been in some type of
Hmm.
relationship where he thought abuse was the type of love you're supposed to receive, or berating, or something, instead of being true, unconditional, positive love.
And I think that was a good vantage point for them to take, and they should have just stayed on that plane of being like the type of love he was looking for may not have been healthy, and
Right,
therefore, like his long-standing public singleness might have been the best thing for Luther because at a certain point he was getting so incredibly like I don't want to call him desperate, but just like I just want to find this thing that he might have would have accepted things that would have left a traumatic mark on his life. I'm like that would have been a good description right there, and we could have left it at that and talked about that song and how relatable that song is for so many people, but also like sad it is to hear that one of the people who knows how to capture love so well in music has never
Didn't have it.
actually had the experience. And so again, like his thoughts about love are just up to his imagination and what he thinks it could be. And still
Mhm.
some way somehow he gets it right. And so therefore he's so capable of being so loving.
Yeah, I agree. What I also didn't see, and maybe it's like licenses or copyright issues or whatever, the tributes that were poured out for Luther after he passed away. Like I
Oh
remember
yeah, I
that
think
BET
that was
tribute
yeah.
when Whitney Houston was singing and they did that
Yeah.
monologue. They started playing clips of his songs like the "Roll Back the Rug" and like that goes to show you how popular and how many hits Luther had and how so before his time he was. I feel
Yeah.
like it ended well. It could have touched on that a little bit, but that's just me because I just love watching how people are appreciated, and Luther was appreciated while he was alive. Like he had a great support system. You
Mhm.
know, it's just something that he wanted that he didn't have. The main one being love, and then the second one being helped with his eating disorder, with his mental health issues. I feel like those
Yeah.
should have been. It's sad that at that moment those weren't conversations because people didn't know how to handle or deal with it. But even in this present day, if Luther was in this present day, it still would have he still would have been scrutinized for it
Oh,
because
100%.
these
Like
are
there's
definitely
no
touchy subjects.
yeah, no way around that. Like he would have been scrutinized to the guilds. And I just like I feel like I again for all the great successes he saw, seen his legacy has seen, his estate has garnered. Like I just still feel so bad for him that number one, he's not here to see how many people like in this generation appreciate him and his music. Like I'm just like Luther, like the way you get sampled, you would have been eaten for
Out
decades,
of this
bitch.
world, right? Out of
Like,
this
oh my
world.
god, like I'm like at this point, bitch, you would have been at the Super Bowl. You would
Mm-hmm.
have been at the Super Bowl singing "If This World Were Mine" with Kendrick and SZA. Like it's one of those things where it's like, man, he's so present in music, and like I wish and I hope not that there'll ever be another one, but someone can come back and capture that same essence that he did in R&B again. I think like there's a noticeable gap without him forever and always. I don't care how old he was and his career was declining. The type of like musical, I won't say innovation, but just how different he was from everyone else, the way he approached music was so incredibly out there. There's no way in this economy he wouldn't have been contributing to the next generation. And I also don't think he was too vain to not be that person. Like, yes, he
Right.
probably would have still been performing. Like, they all love that shit. But Luther also would have been in the studio with these people helping them make their own music. Like, he would have went back and do his vocal arrangement, producer, production back. Him and Adele would have probably made a song. Like, I'm
Oh,
just like, that would have happened.
imagine an Adele and Luther date duet.
That's what I'm saying. They would have made a song. He would have produced and wrote a song for her. Whatever. Like he
Even
definitely
Sam
would
Smith
have like,
too.
yeah, he would have been in his bag with this generation of artists for sure. Um, him and Bruno Mars, he would have been in the studio with Bruno. Like it's just too many people that I think are big stars now that could have benefited a time or two from like a Luther touch of a
From the
song,
Luther
A
touch.
Luther
Yep.
touch of a vocal arrangement, a production, ad libs, like whatever. They could have benefited. And I think that's probably leaving the documentary. That might be the thing that I was saddest about is like, man, y'all not
The
gonna get the Luther
artist
touch, but it's
out.
fine. We got enough. We got one thing I will say. He did leave a whole lot of music. Like there's
Mm-hmm.
so much music. So the other thing I was happy about, there's so much footage of him. Like there's so many interviews, so many live performances, so many like there's so much about Luther out there that it's not like he can be a forgotten piece of like this world. There I don't know who had the wherewithal, but whoever's out there filming him constantly, thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate it. We definitely appreciate it. Well, this was a fun recap for
Mm-hmm.
the first Schoolin Sessions back of 2025. Please make sure you follow us everywhere. Those wrestling girls, Unapologetically Eclectic, Pablo, Christina, the whole crew. Make sure you follow us. Stay tuned for more Schoolin Sessions like these. And let us know who else you want to talk about, who else in pop culture you want us to talk about, and movies and wrestling. Just let us know in the comments who or what topics you want us to touch on, and we will definitely try to deliver. Those wrestling girls are being revamped this year. We're coming out with a whole bunch of new content we don't want you to miss out on. So on that note, it's your girl Krista B with Pablo the Don. Thank you for tuning into Schoolin Sessions, and we are out of here until next time.
See you
Later.
guys.